Chair, first I would like to apologize to the State Secretary and the Chair because the last time I spoke here I said that I would only give a philosophical speech once and after that would only talk about percentages. But of course it's a strange situation. We have a cabinet of 111 that is not yet standing on the steps and a coalition agreement that has not yet been confirmed. So we are also in a bit of a hiatus at the moment. And actually this seemed like a good moment to zoom out a bit and ask the question, what do we actually want from education, culture and science? Because time and again, we discuss these terms from the perspective of social challenges, relevance, emancipation, resilience, impact, and connection. Society raises concerns, and we want to solve those concerns through education, culture, and science. This idea is not new. For a long time in Europe, the idea existed that art, culture, and science would elevate mankind. When secularization took hold and democratization increased, the idea arose in the 19th century that art and culture, now that the church no longer served its purpose, would civilize people and make them good citizens. Art as civilization, education as moral formation and emancipation, science as progress. Education. Then came the 20th century. Apparently, societies with the most beautiful poetry, literature, music, painting, and brilliant scientists were not necessarily more ethical than societies in which these were less developed. Subjecting art and culture to civilization for political purposes turned out to offer no moral guarantees. Aesthetic refinement is something radically different from being a moral person. The 20th century showed, in short, that culture, science, and knowledge can go hand in hand with barbarism. The 19th century view of humanity and the world turned out to be incorrect. Reading Cervantes makes your Sunday afternoon more beautiful. Rilke hopefully made leaders' sorrow a bit more bearable, and Chopin helps you sleep a little easier. But it doesn't make you a better person. That is not the fault of art and culture. We asked for something they simply could not give. But the second half of the 20th century did struggle with this disappointment. From that moment on, art was no longer allowed to be beautiful. It had to be honest to show the dark sides of humanity. Aesthetics became distrusted, and art was supposed to briefly reveal who humans really were beneath that thin veneer of civilization. This disappointment could have gone in two directions. We could have accepted that art and culture are not mechanisms for civilization, but simply means to make life a bit more interesting with the materials at hand. Or we could deny this and only politicize it even further. The latter is what happened. Because culture apparently failed to increase morality on its own, there gradually arose a tendency to load culture more and ever more explicitly with social and political tasks. If culture, education, and science do not achieve this on their own, there is a tendency to steer our politics in order to still contribute to a moral world. Concepts such as relevance, connection, equal opportunity, impact, and emancipation then become central. In fact, we became disappointed in education, culture, and science because we expected something from them that they could not deliver, and decided to respond to that disappointment by burdening them even further. Chair, I see this reflection in this budget. In the policy agenda, and explicitly in Article 14 on culture, culture is increasingly being placed in the context of social challenges. At the same time, it is increasingly emphasized that culture must be free and that creators also deserve autonomy. But then, through subsidies, all sorts of standards are imposed that the free and autonomous culture must then meet. We actually see the same pattern with science and research. Autonomy is normatively acknowledged, but direction is programmatically organized through social priorities, impact criteria, and thematic agendas. Again, with good intentions, but still based on the same assumption that meaning must be explicitly organized. Of course, culture and science are always normative. They were, albeit in radically different forms, even before the 19th century. Art has always carried something disciplinary within it. The difference is that the disciplining was more implicit, subtler, that it had more to do with refining the mind, at best creating a beautiful living room at least, than with solving all moral issues. Time, imitation, canon, tradition, they were decisive. Now we build programs, create indicators, and demand accountability according to politically imposed goals. In the 20th century, we realized that, once again, art could not shape politics. And in response, education, culture, and science have been made more subordinate to politics than before. Whereas art used to be civilization, it has now truly become a bearer of ideology. Not everything that has value can be justified, and not everything that is justified has value. Art may be empty, science may seem useless, education may shape without direct yield. As soon as their right to exist is measured solely by what they produce, they lose precisely what makes them free practices. This is not a plea against engaged art or socially involved science. Nor is it nostalgia for a harmonious past in which everything was good and beautiful. It is a plea for restraint from politics and for an awareness of boundaries. Education, culture, and science are extremely important. They deserve our attention, love, and investment. Just not always for the reasons we think they are important. Culture, in the broadest sense, has become politicized. It has become a vehicle for all the political desires to solve every tragic feeling or problem in society. But in doing so, we stifle creativity. We stifle the teachers, constrain the artists and museums. We are making the same mistake as in the 19th century, expecting something from culture that it may never have been able to give. On that note, I have two questions to conclude, because it had to be a bit more than just a story. Does the minister see the risk that education, culture, and science are increasingly being burdened with solving social and moral issues that they cannot bear? And where, for him, is the limit of what we can reasonably expect from these domains? Finally, can the minister explain how he ensures that policy objectives and subsidy criteria provide direction without actually replacing the substantive freedom of culture and science? Thank you.